Hi everyone! This video is going to be a bit different from my usual content, but I thought it would be fun to talk about a topic that many people have talked about here on YouTube, and one that I've been really interested in lately. The Chuck E. Cheese's animatronics. If you went to Chuck E. Cheese as a kid, you probably remember it for a few things. Whether it was the pizza, the games, the memorabilia, Chuck E. Cheese himself, but the standout has been the animatronics. It's what made this place unique from other entertainment places. Most of us are used to seeing just 5 characters performing on the stage. But in a restaurant spanning nearly 50 years, one can assume that there were more than just those 5. Okay, a lot more. In this series, I'm going to be explaining every single character that was made into an animatronic at a Chuck E. Cheese. Before we begin, I want to go over a few guidelines. This will only be including main stage characters. As much as we love the building, the moon, the pizza cam, Munch Jr., and the singing flowers, I consider them minor characters and therefore won't be including them. However, there is one early prop character that is really interesting that it deserves its own entry. And no, I will not be saying anything about the Rockefeller explosion. They are different from the Chuck E. Cheese characters. The way this series will work is this. In part 1, I'll be talking about the 5 main characters. Part 2 will be the retired original characters plus that one prop. Part 3 will be the guest stars. Part 4 will be the solo cabaret acts. And Part 5 will be the group cabaret acts, the lounge, and other sideshow acts. Lastly, I want to give huge thanks to the people at ShowBiz Pizza Wiki and ShowBizPizza.com for providing me with the information that I will be sharing. I would also like to give huge props to the people who have uploaded pictures and archival footage of these animatronics. Okay, let's begin. First, let's start with some history. Nolan Bushnell, the guy who made Chuck E. Cheese and also Atari, had an idea of creating a family entertainment restaurant since 1974. He saw a coyote costume at the IAAPA Expo and began planning a restaurant calling it Coyote Pizza. But when he received the costume, it turned out to be a rat. Then the name was changed to Rick Rat's Pizza, but Ricky Rat wasn't a kid-friendly name, so they went with Chuck E. Cheese, which was much more kid-friendly. The first Chuck E. Cheese's Pizza Time Theater opened in May 1977 and featured a very unique animatronic show. More on that later. The idea of animatronic entertainment came to Nolan Bushnell on a trip to Disneyland. Nolan was a huge fan of Disney parks, and coincidentally so am I, and during Pizza Time Theater's development he realized that live entertainment needed breaks. The Tiki Room animatronics played throughout the day and it worked for his restaurant idea. The show was updated throughout the years, ultimately leading to how it is today. In 1980, a fellow pizza entertainment chain opened called ShowBiz Pizza Place. It was similar to Pizza Time Theater but featured a different animatronic band called the Rockefeller Explosion. In 1984, Pizza Time Theater filed for bankruptcy. The video game Crash of 1983 is rumored to be part of the reason. ShowBiz Pizza purchased them, and the two still remained separate buildings until 1992, when they decided to rebrand all restaurants as Chuck E. Cheese's. Through this, there was an animatronic remodel process called concept unification. It was basically changing all the Rockefeller characters into Chuck E. Cheese characters. If your Chuck E. Cheese's has a 3-stage, it's likely that it once was a ShowBiz Pizza place. Alright, enough history, let's dive into the characters themselves. We'll start with the big C himself, Chuck E. Cheese. As mentioned, Chuck E. originally started out as a rat. He also had a rude personality too. He would constantly insult his co-stars and call them names like Nitwit, complete with a New Jersey accent.
That's cause it's not your birthday, Nitwit! Oh yeah!
In the beginning, the animatronic show was meant more for the adults while the kids were in the arcade. You might also notice the setup, as the characters are hanging in picture frames on the walls over the guests. This style is named the Portrait Show, and it's very unique. But all the bots look pretty rough around the edges, and the Chuck animatronic even held a cigar. Thankfully, he got rid of it by 1980, and by 1984, Chuck's personality began to soften up and he became much friendlier. In the 1990s, during concept unification, Chucky received a classy makeover that featured his classic tuxedo with a classy set to match. Later, due to competing children's entertainment place Discovery Zone, the company decided to give him a more hip fashion, into Cool Chuck and Adventure Chuck. He lost his accent and became much more kid-friendly. The bot later received the iconic shirt with the yellow C. In 2012, when Chucky was remodeled into Rocker Chuck, some of the bots were updated as well. Some Chuck E. Cheeses only have one single Chuck E. Cheese animatronic today. I live 15 minutes away from a Chuck E. Cheese's, and that's all I saw when I went about 6 years ago. Chucky certainly has changed a lot, hasn't he? Helen Henny. Helen Henny was the first guest star from 1977. She again appeared in 1978 at the second store on Cruiser Road in San Jose. She was a loose parody of singer Helen Reddy, and originally resembled a goose more than a chicken. Later, she moved into cabaret and received a somewhat creepier redesign. She seemed to be more rock and roll than previously. She hung out in the cabaret until 1983 when Pizza Time Theater filed for bankruptcy. She rejoined the main stage and has been a part of the main cast ever since. She clucked a lot more and became a Broadway diva, sometimes irritating Chuck. Throughout the 90s and 2000s, she gained much more romantic feelings towards Chuck and would often get teased about it. With Rockstar Chuck, she received a brand new look and a personality change. It was here that Helen had developed as a gamer girl. She even claimed to have the high score on many of the games. So from cute to ugly to kind of irritating, back to cute. Mr. Munch. Mr. Munch didn't appear until 1978, replacing a retired character that we'll get to later. His original appearance was very sinister looking, but thankfully has softened up over the years. Different color combinations were considered, but ultimately it was decided to be purple and yellow. He originally had a scratchy voice, but was changed to deep during concept unification with a much rounder look. In 2000, he was made the dumb one of the group, but thankfully he had a very soothing voice which made him tolerable.
Fun, but after all that singing, now I'm hungry.
So what else is new?
However, in 2014, Munch's voice was reverted back to scratchy and still with a dim-witted personality, which makes him really annoying for me nowadays.
What? You think I was going to... Me? No, Munch.
Thus all this, he's still really friendly. Just keep your pizza away from him. Jasper T. Jowls. Jasper has been there since the beginning of Pizza Time Theater. He originally played a banjo rather than a guitar and had a very wild voice with a loud laugh. Listen to this demo from 1977.
Oh, thank y'all. Now let me see if I'm in voice.
Could you imagine that today? Something interesting to note is that Jasper's banjo was real, but was quickly dropped as the weight of the banjo was damaging the animatronic. He originally started out as the dumb one before that trait was handed over to Mr. Munch. When the guest stars started appearing, Jasper would often flirt with them, much to the annoyance of Chucky. Eventually, his banjo got replaced with an electric guitar and got a voice update. Jeremy Bladio,
Chase me a Mercedes Benz, and I don't care for
who provided similar voices to Bob West,
slow, can't talk faster, sorta laid back. A tour through the neighborhood or hiking in the park.
He has been since named Chucky's best friend. Come on, he's a dog, what do you expect? And now he's probably my favorite of the group other than Chuck himself. And one more thing, there was a prototype for concept unification which featured a zombie-like Jasper. That's super unsettling. Pasquale. Pasquale is the drum-playing Italian chef who makes all the pizzas and birthday cakes. Originally, during the previously mentioned portrait show, he was placed above the kitchen and originally would open the door and announce when guests' pizzas were ready. This feature was almost immediately dropped though, as the animatronic system couldn't keep up with all the orders. His Italian accent was very operatic and quite unsettling to say the least.
You know I'm here to make it a pizza, cause that's my line.
He does it fine.
But all the things I need to make it a mixture, are harder to find. More.
He was also one of the only characters that would occasionally go toe-to-toe with Chucky's insults. Gradually, his voice became much less unsettling and friendlier, and his personality began to develop as an aspiring comedian. His jokes were pretty bad, to say the least. I'm not the biggest fan of Pasquale, but I understand why he's needed. All bands need a good drummer, and after all, someone has to make all those pizzas. And that's gonna do it for part 1. In part 2, we'll be taking a look at the original retired characters and that one prop that I mentioned. Thanks for watching, remember to like and comment, and I'll see you in the next part.